We're waiting for a few moments to see if any other participants arrive. And I will be right back one moment. All right, we're back and the room is filling up. Alex, it's good to see you. I don't know if we lost George or not.
Sorry, Jason, I wasn't mute. I say, and nice to see you as well.
I'm still here.
All right, it is now 8:34. I think that if everybody's going to be here, they'll be here by now. I hope that if a few stragglers come in, they won't have missed too much. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. My name is Jason Dominioni, also known as Toastmaster Smith in a number of circles. I started out in the club Speak IT, where I served 2 terms as Sergeant at Arms. I'm now the president of All Rounders, but due to an unfortunate absence, I've been asked to step in to deliver the Sergeant at Arms training tonight. I'm sure this is going to upset the leadership a little bit, but the training materials that were sent out do not reflect the current situation of the Sergeant at Arms role in Toastmasters. Show of hands, who's been meeting virtually? I figured everybody that had video, their hands would go up. And even if you don't have video, Charlie, Joe, Levi, Kelsey, Gander, and Don, I imagine your hands went up as well. The Sergeant at Arms is in charge of the meeting itself. All of the other officer roles have very important duties that mostly exist outside of the club meeting itself. But the Sergeant at Arms owns the meeting. In the time of virtual meetings, what does the Sergeant at Arms have to do? Virtually nothing. I see Willie giggling over there. I see Melissa giggling. It is the easiest role right now. You get a vote in the executive council and you don't have to do anything right now. You merely log into a Zoom meeting and there you are. But could there be responsibilities that the Sergeant at Arms needs to be capable of and responsible for in the age of Zoom meetings? Because I think so. Let's talk first. Let's talk first about the traditional sergeant at arms roles. I think I'm echoing out of somebody's microphone. The sergeant at arms traditionally is the one that sets up the meeting, tears down the meeting. You are intended to be the first to show up. You are intended to be the last to leave. You are intended to find the meeting space for the club. You are intended to set up that meeting space for the club. You are intended in a normal world, if we can use that term, to have club property displayed, lecterns set out, gavel, timing equipment. We have ballots for voting. We have timer sheets. We have grammarian sheets. We have sign-in sheets. We have general evaluator sheets. All of these things in a normal meeting are your responsibility. You are responsible for keeping track of club supplies, not just the banner and the lectern, the gavel, and the timing equipment. Things like ribbons. In my original club, Speak IT, we only did best table topics ribbons. But there are best speech ribbons, best evaluator ribbons. We have you gave your icebreaker today ribbons. There were halfway to competent communicator and accomplished competent communicator ribbons, although that's a bit diminished these days with pathways. But all of those supplies are intended to be the sergeant at arms' responsibility. Well, in the day and age of virtual meetings, grammarians strike me for that one. In the day and age of virtual meetings, what does it mean to keep track of the club property? What does it mean to set out a lectern or have ribbons? In my current club, we joke about, you get this brand new virtual blue ribbon. But there are no ribbons actually being deployed. So once again, this leaves the sergeant at arms role with not a whole lot to do right now. One could argue that the sergeant at arms should be and could be responsible for setting up the Zoom or WebEx or Microsoft Teams or whatever platform is being used, Zoom obviously being the most popular. We're on Zoom tonight. But one could argue that the sergeant at arms should be responsible for coordinating the online meeting. Frankly, I think this might be a role better reserved for the most tech-savvy member of the club. Perhaps not the sergeant at arms just because of the name of the role. In some clubs, the president starts the meeting, but technically, by the Roles and Officers Handbook, the sergeant at arms actually is the one responsible for starting the meeting. The sergeant at arms is responsible for standing up in front of everybody. If you were actually standing up, I couldn't stand up right now. You just see from like here down, it wouldn't be all that climactic. But the sergeant at arms is technically the one that is supposed to start the meeting. If you actually had a gavel, you would step to the lectern and tap twice and call the meeting to order. The sergeant at arms in most clubs, and there are some variations. My old club, Speak IT, we used to say the Pledge of Allegiance in the beginning of a meeting, just as we did tonight for our officers training. But there's also the Toastmasters mission statement. We strive to empower each individual, etc., etc. Either one of those are entirely acceptable. If you want to do both, that's fine too. But opening the meeting and giving it a sense of formality is one of the things the sergeant at arms is responsible for. Yes, a lot of clubs like to joke and carry on. I've done a bit of that tonight on our downtime myself. But the purpose of opening the meeting is to draw attention to there is someone at the front of the room that we are now supposed to pay attention to. And that particular formality of calling the meeting to order is symbolic of accomplishing everybody else is going to be quiet now and we're going to listen. In Speak IT, as the sergeant at arms, I would typically take just a few seconds to talk about these. In a live meeting, you want to silence these and put them away. On a Zoom meeting, where the majority of people are muted most of the time, it's very easy to look over. I'm just going to check this real quick. And it's very disheartening to a speaker if they're in a live meeting to see half of everybody just scrolling through irrelevant Facebook junk, nothing that means anything. And on a Zoom meeting, it's also fairly obvious if you look at the screen and see that Brady Bunch view of a whole bunch of folks at one time, and half of everybody's not even looking up, all I can see is the top of your head, whereas as I'm a speaker, I'm trying to be evocative. I'm trying to be descriptive. I'm trying to get attention. And when all I see is, as a speaker, the sergeant at arms can be the one at the beginning of the meeting that has the opportunity to remind people that you are meant to be here in the meeting in the moment. Yes, I'm speaking into a webcam with a whole bunch of people on mute. Sign of the times, yes. But it is so much more helpful if just that tiny little reminder can be given. I want to try something out for the moment, and I hope that you guys can hear the audio. I did the TLI Sergeant at Arms training in October of 2018, and the single best moment of my Toastmasters career happened. I'm going to see if I can share this so that you can hear it. In our club, I call everybody to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Some clubs do the Toastmasters motto. And then I talk about these just for a moment. Ask people to silence these and put them away. I have no idea if that audio was audible. But the point was that as I was talking about silencing the cell phones, someone's cell phone went off in the audience. And I swear I did not plan that. It was not a stooge. Everything was organic, but it went to prove the point that these interrupt meetings. Encourage people just for that hour once a week, just for that little bit, to put these away. I understand people that are on call. I'm in the IT industry. I have to be on call sometimes, and sometimes you have to have your nose in your phone. But I encourage people to let that go and just be in the moment. Because that moment of paying attention to someone else or having someone else pay attention to you while you're giving a speech, while you're giving a table topic, while you're giving an evaluation, that's the connection that I personally seek from Toastmasters. It's not what everybody seeks, I understand. But being able to be in that moment, whether it's on Zoom or in a live meeting, is to me the most important part of Toastmasters, and why I enjoyed being the Speak IT Sergeant at Arms for 2 terms, is getting to cultivate that product, if you will. Because the Toastmasters meetings are a product. It's something that we're trying to sell. I hate using that word, but it's something that we're trying to sell in order to incorporate more people into this idea of becoming unafraid of public speaking, becoming competent public speakers, and hopefully improving our leadership. And as the Sergeant at Arms, we're responsible for the content and the construct of that meeting. If we're going by a previous metaphor that Marshall Porter set up about the vice president of membership is the head of sales, they're always closing, we're always trying to sell. Well, if the Sergeant at Arms, the engineers of the product, are not giving something for the VPM to sell, there's no club. If we're not giving the president, ostensibly the CEO of the club, something to manage, then there's no club. The last point I want to make about Zoom meetings is the Sergeant at Arms, I think, and I conferred with Cindy on this beforehand, and she agrees, our district leadership, that the Sergeant at Arms should be the co-host of any Zoom meeting going on. Why is that? The co-host of a Zoom meeting can do several things. They can make a person a presenter. So if a person giving a speech has a PowerPoint presentation that goes along with the speech, they can ensure that that speaker's view gets fixed on the Zoom meeting. I have, as I mentioned, the Brady Bunch view going on right now. But if someone is giving a presentation, their presentation needs to be front and center in the Zoom meeting. A co-host can do that. Some people use the chat box to send out messages in chat. The chat box is the equivalent of someone in the meeting going to somebody else, which, especially when a speaker is giving a speech, is entirely disrespectful. A host or a co-host has the ability to restrict chat, whether you either have to say it to everybody, you can just say it to the host. But those are moderation steps that the origin of the very idea of the Sergeant at Arms years ago in Brutus Couture and whatnot, the Sergeant at Arms was the one person with the gun in the room that could say, stop what you're doing. Now, we're obviously not going to the point of utilizing firearms or even swords. My dad was the sergeant at arms of Knights of Columbus years ago, and he actually had a real sword that he would carry to meetings and stand there with his hand on the sword as if someone stepped out of line, he was going to stab them through. Term is a bit antiquated, yes, but the sergeant at arms is intended to be the one at the meeting that keeps order. And you're the one with the responsibility and the right to keep order in a meeting. And I want to end my prepared portion of this with something that is going to be very, very disheartening, I think, to everyone. About 2 months ago, I was invited to a Zoom meeting for a Toastmasters meeting originating in Istanbul, Turkey. In the day and age of Zoom meetings, what does it matter where you actually are? There were Toastmasters clubs that were opening up their virtual meetings and not using a password. I joined a Toastmasters meeting, as I mentioned, originating in Istanbul, Turkey. But there were people from 15 different countries, all the way from the United States to South Korea. There were people from Iran in this meeting. There were people from Israel in this meeting. There were people from Azerbaijan in this meeting. There was one person from Hong Kong. There were several from South Korea. There was a couple from Egypt. I think there was upwards of 40 people in this meeting, and I was the only American in this meeting. Is anybody familiar with the phrase Zoom bombing? For those of you that don't know, it's where internet trolls, and I won't even begin to get into what exactly a troll is, but someone that's looking to cause damage, malcontent, etc. We were about an hour and 45 minutes into this meeting. As I mentioned, over 40 people. There were 3 prepared speakers. The table topics, I think we had 16 different people do table topics. It was a magical experience. And to see so many people from disparate portions of the planet come together in this revelry of speaking and leadership and camaraderie and love for each other. We were nearing the end of the meeting, and all of a sudden, the attendance, you can see in the corner of the Zoom meeting, you can see the attendance, and it went from 40 to 60 to 100 to 200 all of a sudden. And all of a sudden in chat, I heard accents that sounded like mine. Standard Southern white dude. And they came into this meeting and started to spew the vilest, most senseless, poisonous invective just because they could. It was a Zoom bomb. There was no password on the meeting. I don't think that this particular meeting, this particular club, this particular organization had been targeted. I think it was a crime of opportunity. Within 30 seconds, the meeting was terminated. I very much regret that there are some factions in this country that think that that's an acceptable thing to do. But you as the sergeant at arms, you can protect against this. If you're the one setting up your Zoom meeting, set a password. If you're not the one setting up the Zoom meeting, make sure the person sets a password. I would have never in a million years thought to have had to say, put a lock on the physical door of your Toastmasters meeting. But that's the equivalent of what I'm having to advise, is if you're going to have online meetings, which it appears that we will for the foreseeable future, put a lock on your door. I hate having to say that. It is the antithesis of guests welcome. But having seen the downside of that, and especially given that in that international meeting, it was strictly Americans that came in and ruined it. I never want a meeting to end like that again. Whether it's domestic, whether it's abroad, it doesn't matter. And it's sad that I have to espouse, put a lock on your door. And as the sergeant at arms, you're the one with the sword that is supposed to protect that lock. I didn't intend for that to end on such a down note. It's worth mentioning that I have now officially stretched that into 25 minutes where my original was 12. We now have half an hour that I would like to open up for discussion. If we end early, that's okay. First of all, I would like for I would like to call upon each person. I can just go down in alphabetical order. If you could just speak for a moment about your club, how you came to be sergeant at arms, and if there's anything that you would like to ask, not just of me, but of the group. I would like to open that, first of all, to just going down the list to Charlie Simpson.
Thank you for your presentation on today. I am the Sergeant of Arms for Free Speakers Toastmaster Club. And I was pretty much appointed like you. There was no one to go into the role, so they just say, hey, Charlie, you want it? And just like you were presenting earlier today, I said, well, that's the easiest role, so I'll go ahead and take it. Don't have to do very much. But being a part of the group, really just kind of like what you were saying, and there's not very many responsibilities, especially with being with the Zoom. I think some of the big challenges that I've currently had to face was just having people accidentally unmute phones and start conversations, and just to make sure that I jump in and just quickly send a chat or a message to let people know, hey, please unmute your phone, I feel are some of the responsibilities via Zoom that we can definitely implement. But other than that, that's pretty much how my role has been thus far.
You mentioned the talking while on mute. In my club, I made a joke about the grammarian should start keeping track of the number of people who start to talk that are on mute, and you get whatever the opposite of a ribbon is at the end of the meeting if you have the high score on that. Moving on, let's see. Don Mershon. Turn it over to Don.
Hey. Yes, I'm the Sergeant at Arms for Fayetteville Toastmaster, Don Mershon. I've been Sergeant at Arms for almost coming up on a year now. And for the first part of my time as Sergeant at Arms, it was more like before the COVID-19 outbreak and the age of social distancing. But since then, I've been trying to adapt what role can do, since I'm I mean, we don't really have a whole lot of responsibility since we're not setting up rooms and that sort of thing. And I'm not responsible for our club's Zoom meetings. That's handled by our district, something like that. It's not handled by the club. Something that I've tried to do now as Sergeant at Arms is trying to get more involved with welcoming guests to the meeting whenever they come in, talking to them about the meeting and making them feel welcome. I think that's something that the Sergeant at Arms was already somewhat responsible for, but I don't see a reason why they can't continue in the age of social distancing. We've gotten a lot of guests. I don't know about you guys, but we get people from all over the world coming to our clubs, and it's always interesting to hear their stories. I haven't had a lot of challenges as Sergeant at Arms, to be honest. As I said before, it's not a role that has a lot of demanding requirements right now, but I think that that's something that what I've shared is something that can help you get an idea of maybe this is something that I could do as Sergeant at Arms or something like that. Back to you, Jason.
I hear you on that, and thank you for that. You're right. There are a limited number of responsibilities for the SAAs right now, but eventually the world will get back to normal, and the Sergeant at Arms will begin to be able to fulfill their first to arrive, last to leave ideal. Going down the list, Levi Frazier, you're on.
Yes. Well, thank you. I think I was volunteered by my wife. Okay.
Are you voluntold?
Are
you voluntold?
I was voluntold. Okay. But it's interesting because the person who preceded me was an ex-Marine. Well, I shouldn't say ex-Marine because they're never ex from what I understand. He was a Marine, and so he ran a tight ship. And so I have some big shoes to fill, and I look forward to it. I need to get more involved because I'm new to it. My wife has been part of Toastmasters for the past 3 years or more, and I just came to it this year. So it's kind of jumping into it with both feet, and I look forward to it.
Good to hear, sir, and good to see you on tonight.
Thank you.
Going down, next we have alphabetically Joe Massey. Joe, take it away.
I actually am new to Toastmasters this year with the company that I work at. And so I got to meet in person, I think maybe twice before we started doing Zoom online virtual Toastmasters meetings. So honestly, I really don't know a whole lot about what Sergeant of Arms does until tonight and getting to learn a lot. So I don't have a whole lot of experience in that side, but I am excited to get to learn and to see how I can do the role and perform the role on the virtual aspect. But then, like we said, hopefully whenever everything opens back up or we move back to normal meetings, to get to really experience it in that way. So I don't have a whole lot of experience, but I'm looking forward to gaining that.
Well, Joe, I'm looking forward to you getting that experience as well. I do have a recording of my last Sergeant at Arms training, which focused solely, of course, on the in-person meeting. I can provide you with a Google Drive link if you would like to access that, where I go into a bit more detail about the in-person side, but given that Zoom has dominated our lives so much recently, I wanted to focus more on that tonight. But if you're interested, I do have a more in-depth training video available for the in-person Sergeant at Arms role that includes that faux pas, which I'm just so fond of.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, going down. I believe next we have Kelsey Sider, might it be?
Yes, that's actually correct pronunciation, so congrats. This is my second term as a sergeant at arms for the Memphis Light Gas and Water Club. How I got this job was we're kind of small and have a few committed members. Other people kind of stream in and out. So when I joined, after a little while, it was strongly suggested that I take on a role. So they gave me one. Luckily, it's one that I could easily jump into. We currently have not had any Zoom meetings of our own, but a few officers sat in on a different club's meeting. And so we kind of got the feel of it. And after this presentation tonight, I've got some ideas and tips for how I might utilize myself when we start meeting.
Indeed. And again, if anybody would like the, shall we say, more regulated version of the training that actually followed the slideshow, I can send anybody a link that would like that. Moving on down the list alphabetically, Melissa Pazinski, I believe it is. In the words of Pink Floyd, your lips move, but I can't hear what you're saying.
She's still muted.
But she wasn't a moment ago when she started speaking. Melissa, we'll look forward to your response in chat. Oh, we heard that then. Did everybody else hear that? She laughed.
Yeah.
Did.
I'm a tech guy, and that's the bizarrest thing. Melissa, we'll look forward to you, any response that you have in chat. We'll go ahead and move on. We have Sudhir Kalam, I believe, next on the list.
Hey, Jason, that was good. I really like your speech today. I'm Sergeant at Arms at Pace Setters Toastmasters. I joined Toastmasters in January, just before pandemic, and I had a couple sessions, like Jason mentioned. And also, I would like to correct, it's not Sergeant of Arms, right? It's Sergeant at Arms, isn't it?
Yes, Sergeant at Arms, A-T, at Arms.
Okay. All right. Yeah, one of our members pointed that out and corrected everybody. So I heard few people saying that, so I just want to let them know. I learned a lot from you today. Obviously, no one told me what my roles are, and I got assigned to this Sergeant at Arms. But I'm looking forward to see your video. Please share that link with us.
Indeed. And here in a moment, before we get out of the session, I will put it into chat. I will have to have time to upload that video. It should only take about 10 minutes. And I apologize, I skipped out of order. Madikar Shenoy is on with us tonight. Would you like to say a few words, please?
This meeting. Hi, it was a very informative session. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And finally, just because he's at the last of the alphabet, Willie Johnson. Good to see you tonight. I'd like to care to say a few words, sir. Darn it, grammarian.
No, I am actually the president of Deal Toastmasters Club.
Oh, okay.
But I have a second title. Of Sergeant at Arms because of the sheer small number. All of our officers are doubled up, if you will. So in that light, especially now when because of COVID, I maintain the equipment, but also in the Deal Club has traditionally the club officers, I guess they equally welcome people at the meetings and talk to people at the meetings. And in the Deal Club, traditionally the president of the club always starts the meeting. and it makes those various announcements about the cell phones and all that other good stuff. So I don't think it's going to be a problem. I just have it as my second title. Since I'm the president, I have to do all the work anyway. And as far as the Zoom is concerned, we're going to leave that to the techies.
And Cindy, by the way, is most definitely a techie. I used to work with her in the IT department of International Paper. And Cindy has held this together quite well. Alex, I wanted to come to you. I know that I went alphabetically. I wanted to save you for last. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Jason. It's an honor to hear your speech. It was an honor meeting you on my first Toastmaster meeting. And thank you. It was great. I just wanted to let you know that I wear the Sergeant at Arms every day, and I take it very seriously because I love people. I love my family. I love to protect. I just love the integrity of a group, the integrity of a team. Therefore, that hat is used every day here in my house. I watch my kids grow. I tell them what to watch, what not to watch. I'll tell them to go outside, not to go outside. I give them freedom. But just as much as I care for my family, I think it's something that I would love to integrate these two as well to a team. I think it gives us the opportunity when we see things going wrong that we can bring them up to the table and bring them to the attention of whoever it's a leader, and work together, collaborate, and to make things better for the Toastmaster team. So, and thank you. And again, thank you for the great speech.
Hey, you got to keep Speak IT going, man. You got to help me. That's my native club. You got to go say hi to Mike, and you got to go say hi to Leslie and Kim and Joanne and everybody. And I might see y'all next week. And finally, as our time is running out, George Jones, I'd like to give you the last word, sir.
I think I got mine fixed if you want me to go so George can be last.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, George is going to have the last word. I got to let him have the last word. So, let's see. I inherited being the Sergeant at Arms because we are a community club and we meet at my office.
Ooh.
So I'm there before everybody else. I can set it up and then take it all down and still be there. But virtually, I've been challenged actually by our club leadership, since I was the one that would set out like the pamphlets and things like that, to find all the digital copies of that and have those to give to guests as they come to our meeting, to be responsible for getting all that together.
That is a very good point. Very quickly, as the Sergeant at Arms, you are responsible for setting out any promotional material or making it available. Your VPPR is responsible for making that material in conjunction with probably your VPM. But you as the Sergeant at Arms, you are the one that is responsible for making that material available, whether it's in person, handing out a pamphlet or a packet right at moment's notice, or being able to provide a link for that. That is your responsibility. And with that, I'll pass it to our final word, George Jones.
Fellow Toastmaster, I am the Sergeant at Arms of Memphis Advance. The way I got into this position, I was the president last year, and the Sergeant at Arms quit. And we were like meeting in person. So we had a couple of people that sort of started off doing it, but they didn't really want to do it because they had done it for years. And so as president, I felt it was my responsibility to do it in person. And it was only like a couple of months left. And I was going to apply for a different office this year, which I am in a different role. But I agreed to continue to do it virtually because I already started it a couple of months ago. I felt that I didn't give it the whole 12 months. and they were glad to have me. But what I do, I arrive at the meeting. I don't open up the meeting because we have like a district account, but I arrive at the meeting early. I do the pledge, and then we move off into the inspirational speech, and then we move off into the rest of the meeting. So I'm sort of like I start the meeting like you mentioned, and greet guests, do a lot of talking, and I'm trying to become a co-host so I can help mute and unmute individuals. That's basically what I do right now, but the in-person job, there's a lot more detail.
Thank you very much, sir. In the chat, I have posted a rather ungainly drive.google.com link. In that, I will be uploading here very shortly the video for my original Sergeant at Arms training that focuses solely on in-person meetings. There was going to be a link sent out that is going to be a compendium of all of the training videos from tonight. So all of our smiling, shining faces are going to be immemorialized for all time. Grammarians, strike me on that one again. I messed up. By the way, grammarian is my particular favorite role in the meeting. I'm such a grammar hound. At this point, we are 12 minutes away from rejoining the main meeting for the closing comments. I'm going to end this recording now, compile it, and I will see all of you back in the main meeting. And thank you very much for your time, and thank you for looking out for the best interest of your clubs. It's in your hands. The president and the VPM and all that can brag all they want, but the Sergeant at Arms owns the meeting. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.